I'll show some examples of how they plugged oil galleries on these Chevy blocks. So from the factory, they use threaded plugs here as well. So that seems logical. So now I'll show a Cummins 12 valve block. So right about in the middle of the screen, there's an opening there, and that's the end of one of the oil galleries. So from the factory, they used pressed in plugs. So on this Cummins 12 valve block, I already had the head off, injector pump was off, the side cover was off, and the oil pan was not bonded on, it was just loose on there. And I thought, well, if I would disassemble the engine further, I could actually have this block upgraded to threaded pipe plugs. So 3 of them that I wanted to do, and the one in the back as well. These plugs are for the water jacket. So I think these engines can make around 80 psi oil pressure. So from the factory, I don't know if they actually have much of a problem, if at all, with the pressed in plugs for the oil galleries, but I thought it would be definitely an upgrade to have threaded pipe plugs in there instead. I sent this block to an engine and machine shop, and they did the drilling and tapping of these pipe threads. So I have to be careful that I don't have a plug that goes in too far, because there's an oil passage that goes to the main bearing, both at the front and the rear of the block. So I'll put a camera in there and I'll show you what it looks like. This is the rear of the block. So I have the camera screen set up over here, and down there is the other end of that oil gallery. So I'd like to send the camera in there along the block and then have a look at that plug that's at the front of the block. Okay, I think I see the plug. So here's that front plug, and I'm going to send a rod down the bigger opening there. And there it is. So now I'm going to send a bigger one down there. This rod is very close to the same diameter as that oil passage, so it's bigger than the previous one. And this one cannot quite enter easily into there. It's partially entering into the bore, but there is some restriction there. This is the plug that was at the front of the block. So near the top of the screen, I think, is a mark made by the rod rubbing on that plug. So I'd like to do some clearancing there. So it looks like I'm going to have to do some more grinding. Looks like I was grinding in the wrong place, or the plug is turned in at a different amount now than it was before. This is the larger diameter rod. Oh, I think that will be okay. So I've got a mark now on that rod. So I can use this rod as a measuring device later when I'm doing the assembly. So I was in the house eating some chili that the wife made. It's good chili. And then I also came out with a little bit of jam on my finger. Did that on purpose. And I want to use this jam as a measuring device. So this plug here is basically behind the camshaft gear, and I want to install a camshaft, and I want to confirm that that plug is not contacting the gear. I don't think it will be. Put a bit of jam on there. And another thing I want to check is that this plug, when it's tightened in there like it is now, that it is not distorting the bore for the camshaft. So I'd like to put the camshaft in part ways so that it's on two of the journals, like the second one and this one, and then wiggle the camshaft both up and down and sideways, and to see if it feels like the play is about the same. Okay, so now there's definitely play up and down, and there's play sideways. Careful. I think I'm going to turn the block so this way feels good, but it could also be some wear in that bearing. No, it feels about the same. So about in the middle of the screen is where that threaded pipe plug is, and I think there's plenty of room there. I've removed the plug from the front of the block and set that one aside, and now I would like to modify one for the rear of the block as well. So this rod, it does not insert as far down as it did on the other side. And the mark, I think, is visible there for the camera. So I'm turning on the rod right now. Okay, so looks like that plug is going to need some modification.